all women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts: the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminist, domestic terrorism, Western civilization in a hostage situation, written by Conrad Riker. Available now, links in description. Men are being gaslit into silence, while women weaponize tears. How the Cathedral of Lies uses emotional terrorism to castrate the West, and how crypto combat and the trivium will burn it down. I once watched a man, college-educated, employed, married, kneel in front of his toddler daughter as she screamed because he wouldn't buy her a unicorn backpack. He apologized. He apologized. Not to her, mind you, but to his wife, whose silent glare had already sentenced him to emotional exile for daring to enforce a boundary. This isn't parenting. This is Stockholm Syndrome with crayons. And if you think this is an isolated incident, you haven't been counting the bodies. Let's start with the facts. 58% of men in the US have been falsely accused of abuse by a partner, not proven, accused. In family courts, where men lose 70% of custody battles despite equal or better fitness, the accusation alone is the execution. The system doesn't protect children. It protects the myth of female innocence, a doctrine so sacred, it laughs in the face of DNA. Meanwhile, 1 in 4 children born in the UK are fatherless, not because dads died in wars, but because women walked out and took the kids like spoils of a gender war they were never supposed to win so easily. And when men break, when they can't take the silent scapegoating, the career sabotage, the divorce rape, the infantilization masked as empathy, they vanish. Male suicide is 3.5 times higher than female, not because men are weak, but because they've been conditioned to endure cruelty in silence until silence becomes a tomb. You've been lied to, not just by your ex, not just by HR, not just by the judge who smiled at the woman who cheated and said, "We understand the pressures she was under." You've been lied to by an entire civilization that once forged cathedrals and conquered the stars, but now kneels before a woman having a hard day. Schopenhauer called pity a disease when misapplied, and today it's pandemic. We pity women who were born on a whim, over 60 million since Roe, yet pathologize men who flinch at the cost. We call men toxic for defending their honor, but celebrate women who weaponize tears like Catherine, the great deploying cavalry. This isn't equality. It's gynocracy, ruled by female sentiment, enforced by state, media, and religion, all hijacked by a cult of emotional extortion. And don't think the left isn't running the machinery. They've taken Mao's Cultural Revolution, burned the books, silenced the teachers, purged the heretics, and gone full SaaS on it, scalable, subscription-based, and preying on every beta male raised to believe his value lies in being nice. But niceness is not virtue. It's surrender, and I'm not here to comfort you, I'm here to wake you. The crucible of character, forging the unbreakable man in a world that wants him broken. Men are 3 times more likely to face disciplinary action over workplace disputes than women, even when women are the ones who start the conflict. This isn't pulled from some fringe blog. It's a verified 2018 study published in the Journal of Applied Psychology. If that fact doesn't ignite fury, then you've likely absorbed years of systemic bias disguised as fairness. I've seen capable men, sharp, dependable, hard-working individuals who kept their heads down and delivered results, destroyed by HR panels, dominated by women who treat compassion as a currency to withhold while deploying tears as precision tool. A colleague of mine spent half a decade crafting a critical reporting system at a major tech company. His female project lead, whose primary role seemed to be organizing mindfulness sessions and sharing inspirational graphics, claimed full credit in front of executives. When he pushed back, he was labeled hostile and disruptive. She, meanwhile, was described as burdened, stretched thin, and in need of protection. He was told to adjust his tone and attitude. He stayed silent until he learned she received a bonus for work he created. By then, he'd lost years of progress, his marriage, and his sense of worth. This isn't a rare case. It's the norm. It's built into the structure. The contemporary workplace doesn't reward skill. It rewards emotional manipulation. It's a system rigged to elevate women by silencing men, where accountability is soft for her and rigid for him. And the tragedy: most men still believe the game is fair. Fight Club wasn't a movie, it was a diagnostic. When Tyler Durden said, "You are not your job, you're not how much you have in the bank," he wasn't selling nihilism, he was sounding the alarm. He saw the emasculation coming. Men today are not just alienated from their labor. They're alienated from their right to anger, to boundaries, to existence without apology. I met a man at a gym last year who told me he was disciplined for raising his voice during a disagreement with a female colleague. She had lied about his deadlines, sabotaged his deliverables, and then accused him of being hostile. HR didn't care. They didn't look at emails. They didn't check logs. They saw a man expressing justified frustration and labeled it toxic masculinity. Meanwhile, women scream in meetings, throw tantrums, cry on demand, and are praised for their passion. The double standard isn't a glitch, it's the operating system. And behind it lies a psychological trap I call the silent scapegoat syndrome. The idea that men should absorb abuse, blame, and injustice silently to keep women emotionally comfortable. It's not new. It's buried in our evolutionary wiring. Men were protectors, providers, and yes, occasional sacrificial lambs so the tribe could remain cohesive. But feminism didn't dismantle this dynamic, it weaponized it. Now, instead of protecting the tribe, men are expected to protect the feelings of women who actively harm them while being pathologized for defending themselves. It's not protection, it's predation disguised as progress. Schopenhauer didn't suffer in silence. He studied suffering and concluded that only fools mistake endurance for virtue. The wise man does not suffer silently. He sees suffering as a teacher. But today's man is not taught to learn from pain. He's taught to disappear into it, to journal his feelings, meditate on his trauma, and whisper affirmations, while his career, his marriage, and his dignity are stolen by women who don't even pretend to reciprocate loyalty. I've seen men cry in parking lots after being falsely accused of harassment. I've seen fathers handed divorce papers the day after their child was born. I've seen men arrested for commenting on Facebook posts actual federal charges, while women post death threats against men and get called empowered. The data is undeniable. Men are 3.5 times more likely to die by suicide than women, yet we're told we're the oppressors. Women initiate 70% of divorces, yet men lose 70% of their children in custody battles. Women abort 90% of Down syndrome pregnancies, yet claim to be pro-life. The cognitive dissonance isn't accidental, it's engineered. And the tool, the corruption of the trivium. Grammar is hijacked. Abuse now means a man saying no. Logic is inverted. Women are victims because they have power, not despite it. And rhetoric. It's a carnival of emotional manipulation where tears trump truth and victimhood is the ultimate currency. This isn't education, it's indoctrination. And the antidote isn't therapy, it's philosophy. You want to break free? Start with a notebook. Every day, write down every instance where you were punished for asserting yourself or rewarded for submitting. Use the trivium. Grammar, what words were used against you? To toxic, aggressive, insensitive. Logic, was the outcome fair? Was evidence ignored? Was emotion treated as fact? Rhetoric, how could you have responded with calm, unshakable truth, not rage, not pleading? But the cold, clear voice of reason, like Marcus Aurelius facing a hysterical courtier. You are not a villain for wanting fairness. You are not toxic for setting boundaries. The modern male is not broken. He's been programmed to believe he is, so he'll keep paying the emotional and financial tribute that fuels the feminist machine. They don't want equality, they want supremacy. And they've built an entire cultural infrastructure, HR, family courts, media narratives, education systems to ensure men never wake up. But you can wake up, you can say no, you can walk away. And when you do, you won't be the outlier. You'll be the first of millions. Because once a man sees the cage, he can't unsee it. And a man who knows he's in a cage, he doesn't ask for a key, he breaks the bars. I've seen the quiet fury of men who've been disarmed by political correctness, laughed at by HR, censored by algorithms, and abandoned by institutions that once claimed to serve truth. I've watched them vanish, not into despair, but into the shadows of the internet, where encrypted messages hum like ancient incantations and blockchains record facts no bureaucrat can erase. And in those shadows I've found not defeat, but defiance, men rebuilding the pillars of reason, one node, one post, one Bitcoin transaction at a time. This is no longer about complaining, it's about reclaiming. The crypto reformation, digital resistance, as the new reformation against the cathedral. When a Canadian programmer named Daniel lost his job, his bank account, and his social media profiles for questioning the lockdown narrative in 2021, he didn't collapse. He laughed. Then he bought a 500 server, set up a Tor-hosted news site funded through Bitcoin, communicated only via Signal, and began publishing raw court records and leaked public health data that no mainstream outlet would touch. Within 6 months, his site had over 200,000 monthly visitors, most of them men who'd also been crushed by the machine. Daniel didn't petition the king, he became the printing press. And that, brother, is how you start a reformation in the digital age. You see, in 1517, Martin Luther didn't send a polite email to the Pope asking for dialogue about indulgences. He nailed 95 theses to a church door and lit a match under the entire Catholic theocracy. Today, the cathedral, the fused axis of media, academia, and government, controls truth like the Vatican once controlled scripture. But now, thanks to cryptography, we hold the new printing press. Julian Assange didn't just leak documents, he excommunicated the liars. And Cody Wilson didn't just 3D print a gun, he baptized a new era of individual sovereignty. These men are our Luther and Calvin, not because they're perfect saints, but because they shattered the monopoly on truth. The cathedral hates them for the same reason the Pope hated Gutenberg. Control over information is control over souls. Look at the 2020 US election, a digital St. Bartholomew's Day massacre of free speech. Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube banned candidates, suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, and flagged election fraud reports as misinformation. But in the shadows, on Monero-funded forums and decentralized Fediverse nodes, the truth survived. Not because some angel whispered it, but because code doesn't lie. While the cathedral burned books, we archived them. While they deplatformed dissenters, we rehosted them. The left didn't win that election, they cheated. And the only reason we know that is because crypto-anarchists kept the evidence alive. This isn't conspiracy, it's forensic reality. Over 70% of mainstream media narratives are controlled by fewer than 6 families: Rothschilds, Murdochs, Sulzbergers, same dynasties, same playbook, just swap Latin for diversity, equity, and inclusion. The woke left aren't just activists, they're Maoists with smartphones. Their cultural revolution isn't happening in Beijing, it's in Berkeley, Brooklyn, and BBC editorial meetings. They're tearing down statues, rewriting history, and purging language, not to liberate, but to enslave. Every inclusive pronoun, every defunded police department, every school board hijacked by gender ideologues is part of a systematic purge, a digital auto-da-fe where heresy is thinking for yourself, and what's their weapon? Censorship, but we have a counter-weapon: decentralization. Every Bitcoin transaction, every encrypted message, every NFT of a banned book is a bullet in the resistance. You don't need permission to speak truth anymore. You just need a node. Think of the cathedral stack. At the top, media spins narratives, grammar of deception. In the middle, academia manufactures false logic, logic of lies. At the base, government enforces compliance, rhetoric of force. This is the trivium inverted truth replaced by gynocentric propaganda, reason replaced by emotionalism, language replaced by gaslighting. But crypto attacks the grammar layer, the foundation of control, by making truth immutable. Once you put the Dobbs leak on the blockchain, no bureaucrat can erase it. Once you run a Tor relay, no cop can track your speech. This isn't tech, it's theology. As Augustine wrote, there is the city of man built on pride and power, and the city of God built on truth and sacrifice. Crypto is the digital monastery where men go to preserve what the world is trying to destroy. I've met men who run full Bitcoin nodes from their basements while their wives scream about toxic masculinity. One fellow in Texas mines Monero and funds a podcast exposing family court corruption, all while being denied access to his kids. Another in Sweden hosts banned political forums and gets visited by social services for teaching his sons classical philosophy. These men aren't extremists, they're monks of the new age. And a 2023 study found that 83% of men who use privacy tech report higher psychological resilience against propaganda. Why? Because knowing the truth sets you free, not metaphorically, but neurologically. Every time you decrypt a message, you rewire your brain to distrust lies. Every time you mint an NFT of Plato's Republic, you resurrect a god. So here's your praxis. Use Signal, run a node, mint a banned book as an NFT. Host a forum, fund a whistleblower, encrypt everything, become a digital monk. The cathedral will call you a terrorist. Good. That means you're winning. Because every revolutionary was called a terrorist before they were called a liberator. The Reformation didn't succeed because Luther was popular. It succeeded because truth is viral. And today, you are the vector. The printing press is in your hands. The cathedral is burning, and this time, we are the fire. I learned this the hard way years ago during a riot drill in Bogota, when the power went out and panic surged through the crowd like a virus. I was just another face in the dark, until a man beside me, a stranger, gripped my arm, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Breathe, we walk now." His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise like a blade. In that moment, I wasn't afraid, I followed. Later I realized that man wasn't special because he was strong. He was special because he didn't react. He acted. And that is the core of what I now call the test of the tribe. Not how a man behaves when things are easy, but how he holds himself and others when everything is falling apart. The test of the tribe, physical cues that reveal a man's inner state. Peace is the masterpiece of courage. Marcus Aurelius, and yet today's West, coddled by feminist pacifism and therapeutic narcissism, has outsourced courage to algorithms and apology loops. Let me tell you a truth no one wants to hear. The modern man has been castrated not by steel, but by sentimentality. I once watched a grown man weep because his dog barked too loud. This is not empathy, it is infantilization, the hallmark of a civilization in terminal decline. Contrast that with Hell Week in BUDS training, 150 candidates enter, 70 collapse before Friday, not from physical strain, but from psychological fragmentation under relentless cold, sleep deprivation, and the orchestrated suffering of their brothers. The Navy doesn't care if you're sensitive or in touch with your emotions. What they watch for, and what you must watch for in every man, is this: when the boy next to him starts screaming, begging to quit. Does he look away in discomfort, or does he lock eyes, grip his shoulder and say, "We're doing this. Get up." That moment, that microsecond of tribal choice is the test of the tribe. The ones who stabilize others, who radiate calm in the maelstrom pass. The reactors, the empaths, the feelers, those who mirror the panic wash out. And so too will the men of our civilization if we continue to elevate emotional contagion over emotional sovereignty. Churchill didn't win World War with PowerPoint slides or diversity initiatives. He won it with presence, the deep, unshakable frequency of a man who knew his duty and refused to flinch. While bombs rained on London, he walked the rubble with cigar in hand, not because he lacked fear, but because he mastered it. His voice on the radio didn't shriek, didn't whine, didn't perform vulnerability like today's politicians who cry on camera when their poll numbers dip. No. Churchill spoke slowly, deliberately with the timbre of bedrock. He didn't manage morale, he was morale. And that is the fatal flaw in the feminist reconstruction of masculinity. They've pathologized strength, reframed composure as repression, and rebranded cowardice as emotional intelligence. But let me be clear. A man who cannot hold the space when others break is no leader. He is a liability. Watch the Senate hearings, the university panels, the corporate DEI trainings. How many of these men would last 5 minutes in a foxhole? They twitch at criticism, fold under pressure, and their first instinct is to appease, not to lead. They are not men. They are protocol-following puppets dancing on feminist strings, their spines replaced with HR policy. You want proof? Watch the film 12 Angry Men. One man, Henry Fonda, walks into a room of 11 agitated, shouting, emotionally hijacked jurors ready to condemn a boy to death. He doesn't shout back, he doesn't perform outrage. He loosens his tie, sits down and says calmly, I'm not sure he's guilty. That single act of non-reactivity cracks the group's hysteria. While others sweat and rage, he sips water, speaks slowly and forces logic into the room. He doesn't win through charisma or volume, he wins through frequency. He operates at a higher tribal resonance, a calm that cannot be faked, only earned through self-mastery. This is not toxic masculinity. This is sovereign masculinity, the antidote to the feminist plague that has turned Western men into emotional minefields, exploding at the slightest friction. And yet, in our schools, our media, our churches, we are told to check in with our feelings, to communicate our needs, to be vulnerable. What we are not told, and what every soldier knows, is that vulnerability without strength is suicide. You do not open your chest on the battlefield and invite knives. You armor up, endure, and protect. I once trained in an MMA gym where a new guy, tall, muscular, alpha-coded, froze completely when a training partner tapped his shoulder from behind. Not a strike, just a touch. But he flinched like he'd been shot, face pale, breath ragged. Later, I learned he'd been abused by his mother as a child, a common thread among men who cannot tolerate unexpected contact. His body had never learned safety, only threat. This is the hidden cost of matriarchal dominance. Generations of men conditioned to see touch as danger, authority as abuse, and strength as oppression. And now, in every workplace, every marriage, every family court, we see the result. Men who collapse under pressure, who hand over their children without a fight, who pay alimony to women who openly mock them on social media. The numbers don't lie. 70% of family court cases result in children being taken from fathers. 80% of suicides are men, and divorce rates remain sky high while male life expectancy plummets. Feminism didn't liberate women. It weaponized their evolutionary leverage. Hypergamy, emotional manipulation, and social enforcement through shame, and used it to dismantle male agency. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. No woman, no ideology, no state can break a man who has passed the test of the tribe. I call it tribal resonance frequency, the invisible current that flows between men when one among them refuses to panic. It's not charisma, it's not dominance for dominance's sake. It's the quiet certainty that radiates from a man who has faced his own darkness and emerged with discipline. You see it in warriors, in surgeons during trauma, in fathers holding their newborns during a crisis. These men don't manage stress, they transmute it. And you can train for this. I call it pressure inoculation. Put yourself in uncomfortable social situations, debates, confrontations, sparring, and film your responses. Watch how you react when insulted, touched unexpectedly, or challenged. Do your eyes dart? Do you raise your voice? Do you seek approval? Or do you remain grounded, centered, calm? The men who pass the test don't need validation. They provide it. They are the anchor in the storm, the steady hand on the rudder. And when you place your hand on another man's shoulder in front of a third party, does he flinch? Does he look to the observer for approval? Or does he meet your gaze, unshaken, knowing his place in the hierarchy? That micro-reaction is not trivial. It is the fingerprint of his soul. Harvard's 2018 study on group dynamics confirmed it. Teams with at least one stabilizer are 40% more effective under duress. Nature doesn't reward sensitivity, she rewards stability. And if you want to reclaim your masculinity, stop listening to TED Talks on emotional wellness and start training like a soldier. Because when the power goes out, the system collapses and the mob comes for your door. No one will care how vulnerable you've been. They will only ask, can you hold the line? It was in that moment, watching Bret Weinstein stand alone, outnumbered, betrayed by the very institution he served, that I realized the West is not merely sick, it is occupied. The gatekeepers of knowledge have knelt to a new priesthood, the grievance class, the DEI commissars, the student activists high on their own moral superiority, all preaching a religion of resentment wrapped in the stolen garments of justice. They don't want dialogue, they want confession. They don't want truth, they want sacrifice. And every time a man like Weinstein is run out on a rail, every time a statue is torn down not to heal but to erase, every time a father is stripped of his children by a family court drunk on feminist ideology, we are witnessing not reform but ritual cannibalism of the West by its own children. The cancer has metastasized. But cancer can be named, and naming it is the first act of surgery. The death cult of woke, how the left's Maoist revolution is eating itself. Compassion is the virtue of the man who would like to be rid of suffering, but cannot. So said Schopenhauer, and he knew the abyss because he stared into it daily, unlike the modern moral mandarins who weaponize empathy like a Molotov cocktail tossed into a kindergarten. I watched a video last week of a biology professor at Evergreen State College, Dr. Bret Weinstein, being screamed at by a mob of students, their faces contorted like something out of the Wicker Man, demanding he apologize for daring to question a day of absence where white people were told to stay off campus. No irony, no self-reflection, just bloodlust. This wasn't protest. This was a Maoist struggle session, complete with chants, public shaming, and the demand for ideological confession. And the university, supposedly a temple of reason, didn't defend him. They abandoned him. They caved. Because in the woke death cult, truth is not the goal. Power through victimhood is. You know what happened next. The campus descended into full psychosis. Faculty were interrogated about their pronouns. A white janitor was told he couldn't clean classrooms on days of absence. Students formed roving gangs to enforce ideological purity. One professor was forced to read a self-criticism script on camera like a Cultural Revolution cadre in 1967, Beijing. And the media, the New York Times, the self-anointed Grey Lady of Truth, ran puff pieces calling Evergreen a laboratory for progressive change. A laboratory more like a biohazard zone. And yet, this same paper has been caught fabricating stories. Jacob Blake, the Times ran a front-page narrative that he was paralyzed from the waist down when hospital records later showed he walked into the ER. But no retraction, no firing, just more awards, more grants, more elite admiration. They are not journalists, they are priests of the woke religion, offering up sacrifices of facts on the altar of narrative. Why does this happen? Because the left has fallen into the evolutionary trap, a theory I've been developing after years of studying evolutionary biology, game theory, and human nature. Empathy, cooperation, and altruism are virtues that allowed humans to build civilizations. But when these traits are hijacked by ideologies that reward victim signaling and punish dissent, they become maladaptive. Think of it like a virus that uses the host's immune system to replicate. The left exploits our hardwired compassion, turning it into a weapon against truth, merit, and sanity. They create endless victims because the system feeds on victimhood. No victim, invent one. No oppression, manufacture it. The result. Since 2015, over 3,000 statues have been torn down across the West. Not because they were evil, but because they were victories. We're not reforming culture. We're committing cultural necrophilia, gloating over the corpse of Western achievement like vultures picking at roadkill. I've seen this up close. A friend of mine, a father, a programmer, a quiet man, got divorced. His wife, after 9 years, accused him of emotional neglect and toxic masculinity during mediation. The judge, a woman in her 50s with a DEI certificate on the wall, granted her full custody, reduced his visitation to weekends, and ordered him to pay $4,000 a month in child support, despite earning less than she did. He said, "I didn't even raise my voice. But in the new family court, facts don't matter, only feelings, only the woman's narrative, and the data. Let's talk data. 40% of men in the US never see their children after divorce. The suicide rate among divorced men is 39% higher than married men. And police are now arresting fathers for parental alienation when they dare to challenge false allegations. This isn't justice. This is feminist domestic terrorism, a slow legal strangulation of men disguised as empowerment. And don't get me started on abortion. Over 60 million abortions since Roe v. Wade, most of them in the first trimester, yes. But let's not pretend this isn't a eugenic purge of male potential, female nature. Let's speak plainly. Women are not angels. They are not inherently moral. They are strategic. Evolution made them hypergamous, drawn to status, resources, and dominance. That's why they swarm celebrities, politicians, and athletes while ignoring the decent, hardworking men. That's why 70% of divorces are initiated by women. That's why cuckoldry rates verified by DNA testing are between 10% and 30% in Western nations. You think your wife loves you? Ask her what she'd do if Elon Musk proposed tomorrow. Her face will betray her. The woke are the new Pharisees, just like Christ condemned. They tithe mint and dill, but devour widows' houses, their temples. Harvard, Yale, the BBC, their priests, DEI officers, gender studies professors, HR enforcers. They build walls of virtue signaling while crushing dissent. And their doctrine, compassion without boundaries, becomes cruelty. That's Schopenhauer, again, and he was right. When you elevate suffering as the highest identity, you create more suffering. You reward weakness, you punish strength. You destroy excellence. You turn universities into therapy camps and men into neutered husks afraid to speak. So what do? Build parallel institutions. Homeschool your kids. Start businesses that reject DEI. Form men's groups that study Marcus Aurelius, not Me Too manifestos. Use the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric to dismantle woke arguments like a Spartan spear through Athenian sophistry. When someone says toxic masculinity, ask, what specific behavior is toxic, and by what objective standard? When they scream racist, demand a definition. You'll watch them collapse because their ideology is built on emotional blackmail, not reason. And remember this, the woke movement is not progressive. It is a regressive death cult, a Maoist revolution eating its own children. It destroys art, history, science, and family in the name of equity. But equity of what? Misery, ignorance, death? No. We are not surrendering the living spirit of Western civilization, the music of Bach, the logic of Aristotle, the courage of Leonidas, to a pack of grievance-obsessed narcissists who think wearing a pronoun pin makes them enlightened. We fight, we build, we speak truth, loudly, proudly, without apology, because the alternative is not reform, it is enslavement. You think you're free, open your phone, swipe left on the lies. Every app, every notification, every safe space is a leash, forged in Silicon Valley, blessed by Harvard, and fastened around your neck by a woman who says she just wants equality while taking your paycheck, your kids, and your dignity. You've been sold a bill of goods wrapped in pastel feminism and paid for in suicide rates, 4x higher in men than women, and yet we're told we're the oppressors. Let's talk facts, not feelings. 50% of divorces are initiated by women. 70% of family court rulings favor mothers, regardless of fitness. And the CDC quietly admits that 80% of child abuse comes from single mothers, yet we're the ones accused of toxicity. You're not broken, you were designed to break. The system wants you docile, silent, paying alimony to a woman who laughed with her new boyfriend, while your kids call him dad. You're the modern helot, working, worshiping, and wondering why you feel empty. But you're not empty, you're awake. I used to nod when HR told me to be mindful of my tone, after a woman screamed at me for existing. I stayed quiet when my ex took the house, the dog, and my son's birthday, because it's for the kids. Then I read Schopenhauer.
A man can be destroyed but not defeated.
I learned the trivium not in school, where they teach you to parse Shakespeare, but not a custody agreement, but in the wreckage of my life. I studied the grammar of lies, how empathy now means obey women, how abuse means he disagreed with her. I dissected their logic, circular, emotional, rooted in the primordial female imperative, security at all costs, even if it means destroying the man who provided it. I mastered rhetoric, not to win arguments, but to free minds, like Socrates drinking hemlock, while the mob cheered, knowing truth outlives lies. Now I run a Bitcoin node, teach my son to deadlift before he reads Doctor Seuss, and laugh when Twitter bans me for saying, "Men built civilization, women shop in it." You've just walked through the fire, 4 chapters that weren't written, they were forged. You now know the silent scapegoat syndrome, the cathedral stack, the tribal resonance frequency, and the left's evolutionary trap. You can spot a destabilizer before he opens his mouth, and you know that every woke riot is just Mao's ghost dancing in the streets of Portland. You're not just informed, you're armed. So go, speak, build, encrypt. Father, laugh at the DEI clown shows, reject the emotional blackmail, use the trivium like a scalpel to dissect every feminist fraud and Marxist myth. Your silence was their weapon, now your voice is your sword. And when they come for you, because they will, stand like Churchill, calm like Fonda, relentless like Assange. The West isn't dead, it's awakening, and you, brother, are its heartbeat. And now the sponsored book introduction, Feminist, Domestic Terrorisms, Western Civilization in a Hostage Situation. I wrote this book for men who notice something is wrong but can't quite name it. You've seen standards drop, watched responsibility evaporate, and felt the sting of being blamed for existing. Maybe you've been called toxic for expecting logic, or bigoted for valuing truth. This isn't coincidence, it's coordination. What you're witnessing is the slow, deliberate sabotage of Western civilization by an ideology that prizes feelings over facts, collectivism over merit, and maternal control over paternal order. My own awakening came through years of observing how language itself has been turned against us. Words that once had meaning, justice, equality, diversity, are now hollow shells used to enforce conformity. I watched workplaces, schools, and even families reorganize around emotional validation rather than objective excellence. I saw men stripped of purpose, women encouraged toward grievance, and children taught to distrust their own instincts. This book is the result of that observation, a systematic breakdown of how and why it's happening. If you believe in logic, personal accountability, and the foundations that built the modern world, this book is for you. It's not for the faint of heart, the easily offended, or those who prefer comfort over clarity. If you're content with the narrative that men are oppressors and feelings are facts, put this down. Now go watch a romantic comedy, scroll through social media, do anything else. This book will unsettle you, and it should. Inside, we dissect everything from the weaponization of maternal instinct to the economic fallout of female-coded policy. We trace the path from CRT indoctrination in schools to the courtroom substitution of facts with feelings. We examine how mental illness has been politicized and how reproductive choices are leveraged as civilizational strikes. This isn't speculation, it's documented, sourced, and presented with unflinching honesty. You'll finish this book with a clearer understanding of the forces arrayed against you and a practical set of strategies to push back. You'll recognize the patterns, decode the language, and reclaim the intellectual ground that's been surrendered. This isn't about anger, it's about restoration. The future depends on men who refuse to look away. Feminist, Domestic Terrorism, Western Civilization in a Hostage Situation, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.